You've likely heard the famous line, "In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue." But what if I told you that Columbus wasn't the first European to set foot in the Americas? Nearly 500 years before Columbus, an adventurous group of Vikings made their way across the Atlantic, discovering lands that are now part of modern-day Canada. And the leader of this historic voyage? None other than Leif Erikson, son of the legendary Viking, Erik the Red. Leif Erikson's story is rooted in the adventurous spirit of the Vikings, who were master navigators, explorers, and settlers. By the year 1000, the Norse had already established a colony in Greenland under Leif's father, Erik the Red. But Leif had heard tales of land even further west. According to the Icelandic sagas, he set sail from Greenland and eventually reached a mysterious new territory, the land they would call Vinland. Vinland, described as a place of abundant resources, timber, fertile land, and wild grapes, was likely part of what we know today as Newfoundland, Canada. While the sagas, such as the Saga of the Greenlanders and Saga of Erik the Red, provide us with rich descriptions of these Norse explorations, they weren't taken seriously for centuries. Some thought they were myth or exaggeration. That all changed in 1960, when Norwegian explorer Helge Ingstad and his archaeologist wife, Anne Stein Ingstad, discovered the remains of a Viking settlement at a site known as Lance o Meadows, located on the northern tip of Newfoundland. This discovery was groundbreaking. It provided physical evidence that the Vikings had indeed reached North America long before Columbus. Lance o Meadows contains the remains of Viking longhouses, iron nails, and other artifacts that date back to around the year 1000. This discovery confirmed that the stories in the sagas were more than just legend. The Vikings had built a small settlement, though it seems they didn't stay for long. According to the sagas, the Vikings didn't encounter an empty land. They came into contact with the native peoples of the region, whom they referred to as the Skraelings. While these early interactions were initially peaceful, conflict eventually broke out, and the Vikings were forced to abandon their settlement. Between these hostilities and the challenges of maintaining such a distant colony, the Viking presence in Vinland was short-lived. So why isn't Leif Erikson as well known as Columbus? After all, the Vikings were the first Europeans to reach North America, right? Well, there's a big difference. Leif Erikson's voyage didn't have quite the same impact on history. The Norse left Vinland, and their settlement didn't lead to sustained contact between Europe and the Americas. In contrast, Columbus's journey in 1492 triggered centuries of exploration, colonization, and transformation across two continents. But in recent years, Leif Erikson and the Vikings have regained their rightful place in history. Their daring voyages across the icy waters of the North Atlantic were an incredible feat of exploration and adventure. While their time in North America was brief, it stands as a reminder that history is full of stories waiting to be rediscovered. So yes, the Vikings did discover America first, but their discovery is a story of what might have been, a fleeting moment in time that would remain hidden for centuries, until modern archaeology brought it back to light. And there you have it. The Vikings, led by Leif Erikson, were indeed the first Europeans to set foot in North America. A fascinating chapter of history that reminds us just how much of the world was being explored long before Columbus. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in more untold stories from history, take a moment to subscribe.
Trek into history.